Cette route qui va quelque part nous emmènera.
Questa strada che va da qualche parte ci porterà. I giardini in testa o mawada ina che la messa. Questa strada che va da qualche parte ci porterà. I giardini in testa o mawada ina che la messa.
Ina che la messa. In a cannabis.
So, welcome everybody. My name is Leonardo Botero. I'm an external collaborator and researcher at the Center for African Studies in Turin, Italy. And I'm here to introduce today's very interesting session that will touch upon some of the main topics that we explored in our research on Lake Chad and are pivotal, we believe, to understand and to grasp what the Lake Chad crisis is about. So for the introductory bit today, we present our introductory documentary, Finding Sarutu, a Lake Chad Crisis film by the International Committee of the Red Cross, which introduces a bit the topic of gender in the Lake Chad area. This is the bridge that will take us on for the morning sessions. The first one is on women's voices in water governance and management, the Lake Chad case. This session is about a research that I and my colleague Teresa Portero have done on gender mainstreaming and water in the area, and we will present in that session our findings, part of our findings, as well as our draft paper that you will find on the Central African Studies website. The third session is at 11, and it is an extremely interesting session in which we linked our research, and we linked it, and we connected with the African Development Bank, and that session is on gender, water and the future. I talk with the African Development Bank about Lake Chad. In the afternoon then we'll go on and we explore a different but still very important side of Lake Chad. But as the Center of African Studies main focus and objective is always been to integrate academic research and what is the greater research on topics, also with a framework that allows a broader public to get involved within these important topics. We will have our first online ever photographic exhibition. This will be presented by Dr. Emilio Ciarlo from the Italian Agency for Development Cooperation, and will be presented by our colleague Lisa, which she did an incredible job in creating these photographic exhibition with the photos so kindly given to us by Incontro fra i Popoli, an Italian NGO which work and still works very closely in the area. And the photographic exhibition is entitled Contadini Resilienti. Following the photographic exhibition, we will have our last session, which includes two interviews that Lisa did with Dr. Guidolin and Dr. President Rebellato, who are the director and the president of Incontro Fra Popoli, who will give us an outlook on the NGOs, their work, and the importance their work has done and did in the Lake Chad area. So with no further ado, I will now start with the introductory documentary. I hope you like it. It's a very extremely interesting one, and I will see you in a bit. Thank you very much.
lokacin da a garinmu ana ta harbe-harbe ana kowa iya ta kansa sai uwarta duk ta rasa yayanta gabaki daya sai ta samu wannan Saratu ita kadai tana ta kuka ita ma akan layi sai ta dauko ta kata can baki wani ruwa kushi dam ta kata ta saka ta a cikin jirgin ina ta rodan mutane ta koma ta rubo sauran yayan nata ta kawo ta sa a cikin jirgin kafin ta kawo su ko da dota jirgin ba ya tafi da yarinyar nan shine rabuwarmu da ita.
To be a parent in the Lake Chad region today is to live with two permanent fears. One stemming from your inability as a parent to provide to your family with their basic needs in terms of food, shelter, drinking water, healthcare. And the second one from permanent fear that the family itself might be taken away from you in a blink of an eye. The Lake Chad crisis is one of the most complex, violent, devastating, and far-reaching emergencies in the 21st century in sub-Saharan Africa.
In my 35 years of experience, I have never seen such cases plenty like this one. Many people were displaced, no feeding, no proper medical attentions. They came in malnourished, and you will see that with some medical complications. As you treat them and they get better, it makes you happier rather than them going back to their remote area and die off.
Ces gens que vous voyez sont les gens de ma base. Un sac de maïs, je mangeais peut-être avec, c'est-à-dire avec mes enfants, mais maintenant c'est devenu à 3 sacs. C'est pas facile.
The Lake Chad region is a place of great humanity. More than 90% of all those who fled their homes have been welcomed and hosted by communities that were already extremely vulnerable before the conflict.
One man with his wife here, 3 men from Ajigin with their wives. We love each other, so we stay here for a meantime. Maybe if things come normal, everybody will find his way. That's what I decide.
Il y avait surtout la vente, l'exportation des bétails vers le Nigeria, l'exportation des bétails vers le Cameroun, ainsi que vers le Niger. Mais suite à ces conflits, à cette guerre, les éleveurs n'arrivent pas à exporter leur bétail.
Our priority going forward is to shoulder the burden of these communities and share with them the assistance that these communities should receive.
Wata kwanye duwa ga da udun kamza kenan.
Ça ils ont décidé de tuer moi-même j'ai sorti. J'ai arrivé ici là avec mon blessure.
The scope of disrespect of some of the basic rules of international humanitarian law is staggering. The scale of destruction of property, of homes, of health facilities that have been destroyed is staggering. 95% of children that we've treated in our surgical ward in Maiduguri who've suffered from bomb blast is also staggering.
To gaskiya dai da ya ji ciwon wannan ya mun yi bakin cikin shi sosai, muna cikin bakin ciki.
Haka ne ya watsi da ni kurin ina tasowa, amma shi athleticism na fara shi lokacin da na ta yi cesium na ji ciwo, a lokacin ne na fara pratiquing athleticism.
Kudda ta dai yazo cesium, yazo na shidda dai alhamdulillah, wata ran a dace.
Tu peux te mettre debout. Voilà.
In Allah yarda ina fatan haka a ce ni ne user port na Niger, amma Allah yarda fatan da nake ma Allah yarda in yi a battery score in shi da yake sawa.
And then na da una manon yende be ma non yende bro. Karala jiri kam bazina kam duri kada afiada nyenye ya kasum kala ka azriye ba. Nyenye kwamnya ya sai suron ba. Bunne ya elenye kwamnya duri nuna kada fiada guzaya kwamnya. Kausu ya elenye kwamnya ada indara man sharo yende.
Salamu alaikum, wannan Saratu ne, Saratu Anku. Ni da na ji labarin mai gidana ma da yake iya baga kamar da ɗazu na faɗa. Duk jirgin da ya dawo daga an yi yaƙi an dawo sai ga kamar zan ga mai gidana a cikin jirgi ɗin za su dawo. Na ganta a cikin jirgi. Duk wanda suka fito a cikin jirgin sai su ɗauki kayansu su fita, yarinya ita kaɗai a cikin jirgi. Sai na ɗauke ta na goya ta, na ga ƙafanta duka biyu su kunkumbura. Ba za su sha kunu ba ne?
We collected all the information they could give us about their families. We used the pictures of the children. We used the names of the children and the names of their family members. And this is how we managed to locate their parents, their siblings, and their grandparents, and finally to reunite them.
Al-Fadil, Nadi Le Nangaro.
Our message to all those fighting in the Lake Chad region is that the Geneva Conventions are not just ink on paper from a bygone period. If respected, they can save lives. It does matter the way a war is fought and won. It is important because after the last guns are silenced comes the most important and crucial time of reconciling communities and people. Respecting the lives and dignity of people during the conflict make the task of reconciling people after the war much easier. International law is not just pertinent because it's the law, but it is also very much in sync with African traditions. It is in sync with Islam, and it is just the absolute right thing to do.
So, welcome back, everybody. This was an interesting documentary that, in a way, started this session and gave us a bit of an introductory on today's topic and overall on the Lake Chad crisis. Now, the following session is going to be on the research I, with my colleague Teresa, did on gender, water, and gender mainstreaming in the area of the Lake Chad. This was a very long summer research we did together, and I am pleased to say that Teresa is here with me today, and I would like to let her start with an introduction of what we did. Teresa, please.
Hi, Leonardo. Hi, everybody. Thank you for having me here. So, as Leonardo said, me and Leonardo have done a research on the impact of the Lake Chad crisis on women and how women are included in development projects. Such inclusion, we may say in our conclusion, should go beyond the mere participation of women, but should include, on the contrary, a series of gender mainstreaming policies and strategies that are inserted both in the program, but also in the way of thinking of the organizations themselves.
Yeah, exactly. I couldn't express that better myself. Overall, we can look at our research in case you are interested in the overall topic on the Central African Study website on our specific session. There is going to be the paper. It is just a draft, as we are going to finalize it in the following month. That said, if you have any questions, any comments regarding the paper, as this is going to be a recorded session we did a couple of weeks ago, do please feel free to comment on Facebook or on YouTube, and we will be back after the presentation of the paper, and we can answer any questions if there are any. This said, I'm now going to switch a bit in Italian just to give the Italian audience a quick roundabout of what these and the future sessions are going to be. Buongiorno, per chi non avesse seguito l'introduzione, io mi chiamo Leonardo Bertero, sono un collaboratore esterno e ricercatore al Centro Studi Africani di Torino. Oggi è una sessione molto... che sta a me molto a cuore, dato che si parla anche della ricerca che io ho fatto con Teresa, ma è una sessione che va a toccare diversi punti salienti della crisi intorno al bacino del lago Chad. Anzitutto parleremo di gender, politiche di gender mainstreaming e la connessione con l'acqua in questa prima sessione, e poi nella seconda sessione alle ore 11 parleremo sempre di queste tematiche, ma le collegheremo con il lavoro fatto dalla African Development Bank con la dottoressa Amel Hamza. Nella sessione di oggi pomeriggio, invece, dato anche l'impegno del Centro Piemontese di Studi Africani di collegare le tematiche di ricerca con strumenti che possono in qualche modo toccare più punti e ampliare la ricerca, in qualche modo esplorarla da un punto di vista diverso. Presenteremo la prima mostra fotografica online che il centro ha mai fatto. Questa mostra sarà introdotta dal dottor Emilio Ciarlo dell'Agenzia Italiana per la Cooperazione Internazionale e sarà guidata dalla nostra collega Lisa, la quale utilizzando le foto donate molto gentilmente dalla ONG Incontro fra i Popoli presenterà la mostra Contadini Resilienti. A seguire poi ci sarà di nuovo Lisa con 2 interviste al direttore, dottor Guidolin, e al presidente, dottor Rebellato, di Incontro fra i Popoli. I hope you're going to find this session extremely interesting and as passionate as Teresa and I did when we did our research. Without further ado, I now introduce to you what our research has been, and I hope you will enjoy it. And again, if you have any questions, any queries, any comments, any feedback that you would like to give us on the paper, we will not be able to answer them live, as this is, as I said, a recorded one, but we will be back just at the end of the session in order to answer any questions or comments that you might have. As I said in English, in italiano, se qualcuno avesse qualunque commento o domanda riguardo a questa sessione che tratterà la ricerca che Teresa e io abbiamo fatto su la connessione tra acqua e gender all'interno della crisi del lago Chad, noi non saremo in grado di rispondere live in quanto è una sessione registrata, ma saremo molto contenti di poter rispondere a qualunque domanda o commento che voi abbiate alla fine della sessione ritornando live. Grazie mille and enjoy! Okay. Hi, everybody. Welcome to this presentation. I'm Leonardo Botero. I'm here with my colleague from the Center of African Studies, Teresa. Teresa, hi. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Hi. Thank you.
Okay. So today we are going to talk about our research Teresa and I did on women water around the Lake Chad area. So the paper is entitled, as you can see, Women's Voices in Water Governance and Water Management of the Lake Chad case. And we'll start with a quick methodology of the presentation. Then Teresa is going to give us a wonderful framework, the theoretical framework within which we conducted our research. And we are going to look at women's participation and gender mainstreaming theory. And we are going to link that with the practice of women's participation and gender mainstreaming. And then I'll take on and describe the Lake Chad crisis and overall the how gender mainstreaming and women's participation in water management and water governance is carried out in the area. So we must stress to the audience that is going to listen to us that this paper is based on our desk research, as it was impossible to us to carry out fieldwork due to time limits, funds, and mostly the COVID-19 pandemic. It is also extremely important to underline that there are few and limited studies on the Lake Chad Basin Commission here on the LCBC, and more in general, gender issue in water governance and water management in the area. So this is due to the lack of field work, mostly interviews on the ground and archive research within the Lake Chad Basin, and limited online documentation given by the Lake CBC and other organizations involved within the area. Within this framework, we try to present our research. We did first a literature review, and then in order to fill the gaps and enrich our research, Teresa and I conducted various interviews with experts who were able to complete this research.
The right to water is now a fundamental human right. However, it is arguable that local access and usage of water depends on various and interconnected issues, including gender. Despite the lack of power and decision-making regarding water management, women are essential providers and users of water. Over the past decades, such women's key role, and therefore the necessity of their participation in development projects, has been recognized in various international principles and protocols. Starting from the 70s, human rights practitioners have tried to bring consciousness of gender issues in development projects. In general, this period has marked a new era in which women were not considered only as wives and mothers, but also as crucial driving force for development. Among such international documents, there are the Dublin Principles of 1992, the Millennium Development Goals with Goal 7C, the 2002 World Summit on Sustainable Development Declaration, and the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, which has recognized gender equality as a singular developmental issue to be addressed. In the aftermath of the previously mentioned international protocols, various transboundary water management organizations, but also local and national institutions and/or organizations have recognized the need to include gender issues. For example, in 2012, the Nile Basin Initiative launched the Gender Mainstreaming Policy and Strategy, aiming at achieving gender equality in all the organization's projects. Also, the Lake Chad Basin Commission Water Charter, adopted by the Lake Chad Basin Commission, poses special attention to the needs of women regarding the management of water resources and the environment in the basin. Thus, in theory, gender mainstreaming in legislation on water is considered as a pivotal medium to design effective development projects. Nevertheless, there are two main critics to the theoretical desire to include women in water management. The first argument is that such aspiration may be realizable only together with a more general national and international desire to reform gender roles and gender norms. The second is that often such process of inclusion is based on an instrumental approach to gender equality, meaning that gender objectives are outlined in order to accomplish other general development goals. On the contrary, development projects and organizations that want to include and address women with their needs and desires should privilege an intrinsic-based approach that aims to fully realize women's human rights independently from any other development goal. Despite the theoretical progress in gender inclusion in international agreements, as well as in development planning, it is arguable that women are still actively excluded in discussions and projects about water management. The current low level of women participation in water management at all levels is due to various factors, such as lack of water rights, community and social norms, as well as gender dynamics crystallizing women's traditional role in the domestic sphere, gender-based violence, and lack or low levels of education. Even when women are included in water management institutions, but it happens mainly at the local or national level, it is difficult to speak of gender mainstreaming. In other words, even when women are represented in water management forums and institutions, power imbalances still work. Moreover, the presence of women in such institutions and forums does not guarantee the inclusion and taking into consideration of gender issues. On the contrary, discussions in such assemblies could still be men-centered and not look at women's concerns. Finally, it should be made clear that the participation of local women, especially when they are also the beneficiaries of a development projects, should be privileged over the inclusion of women who are not local and thus are limited in the comprehension of the needs and desires of the female population in the targeted area. In sum, it is arguable that gender empowerment regarding water management projects does not consist uniquely in women's representation in institutional organizations. On the contrary, gender mainstreaming means a revolution in the decision-making process, allowing for alternative approaches to the management of water. In a domain, indeed, where the rules are made by men and the structure embodies men's visions, women's participation is not solved uniquely by allowing women and minorities in general into decision-making process. Instead, it is crucial to analyze and question the principles at the basis of water management organizations, as well as their values, policies, and strategies, which should be implemented, taking into account women and involving them in a broader way that goes beyond the mere formal participation. For instance, when implementing training programs for women, women themselves should be involved in organizing and teaching courses. And finally, when adopting gender mainstreaming strategies and practices as a basis of development projects, they should be designed and implemented keeping in mind the societal and political gender norms and practices in force in loco. This process obviously is not easy and involves activities of education, cooperation, coordination between women, creation of resilience and capacity building, and in general, all the activities that may challenge traditional gender norms. One of them is co-production, which is the active involvement and engagement of actors in the production of knowledge. Even though traditionally knowledge, often equated uniquely with scientific expertise, is considered to be universal, in reality it is not. Exchanging knowledge therefore provides a solid basis for those projects in which a lot of stakeholders, including women and minorities, are involved. It is important to underline, however, that this approach may be successful only if all stakeholders are considered equal, and thus only if participation is fully inclusive. Another strategy is the involvement, if possible, of women's cooperatives that are already present in the territory and that were established for a specific goal or to carry out daily activities. In these cases, such cooperatives should be taken as a starting point for consultation. Participation of women in decision-making processes and gender mainstreaming in water-related projects may have several benefits at the individual and societal level. For example, improved and close access to water supplies and sanitation seems to produce positive effects such as better health for women and girls, as increased quantity and quality of water enhance women's dignity. Furthermore, other direct benefits of gender-oriented projects are linked to enhanced school performance.
Within this context, we now turn to the Lake Chad and the Lake Chad area more in general. So Lake Chad is the fourth largest lake in Africa. It's situated at the edge of the Sahara Desert between Niger, Nigeria, Cameroon, and Chad. And it provides a vital source of water to human, livestock, and wildlife altogether. Nonetheless, it's been highlighted by various studies that the lake has been shrinking. However, we would like to stress and to underline that the lake is known for being highly variable at every time scale, whether seasonal, perennial, millennial, or geologic. Anyway, the decrease in water levels, whether they are part of the lake history or a new event, have had considerable impact on the local population. Crop failure, forced migration, and increased hydropolitical conflict within and around the Lake Chad Basin. Furthermore, communities in the region has also been the target of terrorist groups, and mainly and most known is Boko Haram. Within this framework, women represent around 52% of the total population. In general, women are perceived uniquely as spouses and as mothers, and they are usually relegated to the domestic sphere. For example, Amalie Ballet-Erdegine in 2016 reported that although women have started playing an important role in various activities, ranging from cultivating cereals to processing harvest fish, gender inequality is still deeply rooted in the Lake Chad area. So, as suggested, the increased political and social crisis has thus increased the importance of water management. An important role is played by the Lake Chad Basin Commission. The LCBC has increasingly assumed a delicate role in the development cooperation between Cameroon, Chad, Niger, and Nigeria. So you get a bit of background on it. The LCBC was set up in 1964 and in 2012 adopted an important document, the Water Charter, which strengthened the cooperation among states and also stressed the importance to give voice to women, youth, and vulnerable social groups in, and I quote, the formulation, execution, and monitoring of projects and programs on water resource management. So the NCBC have substantially stressed the priority of a focus on a gender-sensitive approach in transboundary water management. For example, in 2015, the multinational project Presibult was approved. One of these project focuses has been to reduce gender disparities in the Lake Chad Basin by facilitating the participation of women in the program as well as in decision-making. Furthermore, UNESCO, also in collaboration with the LCBC and the African Development Bank, launched an important and we think one of the most interesting programs, the Biopal project, which aims to encourage the return of displaced population and mainly and maintain population in the area, in particular and mainly young people and women. For example, one of Biopal's activities focuses on the production of the ecological alga spirulina, an alga mainly harvested by women. So, in order is done this in order to give women financial sustainability. De facto, Biopal aims to ecologically rehabilitate a spirulina production site in the area, which would have a direct and positive outcome on women's financial self-sustainability. It is therefore clear that in the past decades, the LCBC have moved towards, at least theoretically, to a stronger gender-sensitive approach from the approval of the 2012 Water Charter to the implementation of various projects. Nonetheless, Risa and I believe these steps have had a limited positive outcome for women, and that they are incapable to address the deeper roots of gender inequality that still persist in the area and also within the LCBC. Despite the process done, de facto women are still largely excluded, not only from any decision-making position in the organization, but also in the overall planning and execution of transboundary water management projects. For example, Salu's analysis in 2015 reported that the LCBC does not have a gender-sensitive approach in project implementation. We argue that one of the reasons behind this absence of gender mainstreaming policies could also be ascribed to the lack of, or extremely limited, women participation in the LCBC decision-making processes. For example, within limited exception, sorry about that, almost all the executives' roles or senior positions within the LCBC are held by men. Moreover, by looking at some previous mentioned projects, it is possible to see that women are still actively excluded from any decision-making process. For example, at the commissioning ceremony of the Presidol project, in theory, a project sensitive to women's inclusion in decision of, we can say, power, there are about 25 people, of whom only one is a woman. Furthermore, by looking at the Biopal Technical Committee, which, and here I quote, plays a key role in the execution of the project activities and advise and guide the project management unit, it is possible to identify only one woman. Thus, it is clear that there is a lack of active participation in women in high level conferences, as well as an international project executive panel. Which in theory should aim at gender inclusion. Furthermore, one of our interviewees suggests that most of the time the LCBC projects on the ground that are meant to concentrate on women's needs focus on the infrastructure, which may ameliorate overall women's condition in the area, but are not implemented by taking into consideration women's particular needs and desires. To some, thus, there are two interrelated problems. Firstly, there is an absence of women's representation in the majorities of these posts at the ministerial, national, regional level, which on the contrary are all held by men, as we pointed out. Secondly, the absence of women's voices in such contexts, particularly in international projects, does not bring any new gender perspective in water-related programs. Furthermore, in the project implementation by the LCBC, there is no presence of strategies and policies that want to fully, and I do repeat, fully include women. As a consequence, development projects are still outlined and implemented without considering women's role in the area, their specific needs and everyday activities. The beneficiaries of this project does result to be always men, while women remain relegated again in their private sphere. We argue that such lack of inclusion not only limits the possible positive outcomes of these programs, but it fails to empower women and foster gender equality in the area.
So in conclusion, we may say that women should be included in water-related development projects. However, such inclusion should go beyond the mere participation in forums and institutions, but it should entail, on the contrary, new approaches, new strategies, new policies that take into account the needs, the specific needs of women and their specific desires in the area. And the problem, on the contrary, of projects that do not take into account women, including both women's desires and women's needs, is that they won't be able to bring an effective change in the area. Moreover, at the question whether gender mainstreaming is a first step to gender revolution, we may say that the answer is both yes and no, because gender mainstreaming projects, development projects adopting a gender mainstreaming approach, surely may aim to change gender roles in the area and gender norms. However, such change cannot be achieved if there is not a desire, a strong desire at the local, national, and international level to do so. Thank you very much for your attention and for your participation. You may find our presentation and our paper included and attached to the website page. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, hi everybody. Welcome back to the live streaming bit. I hope you enjoyed our presentation. I do excuse myself for the very bad English I had while presenting it. Anyway, you can, if you missed some bits and bobs of the overall presentation, you can find it in a while on the YouTube page, and you can watch it over again if you wish. As Teresa suggested at the end of our recorded presentation, you can find the paper and the presentation on the dedicated website page. So if you want to go and read it through, you as well can. Now, I don't know if there are any comments. Might be not, as it is kind of early in the morning. We know that. But if there is no comment, it is not a problem. In case you may wish to comment on it, if you wish to have any clarifications on the paper and on the presentation, do please feel free to contact the Center of African Studies on the email you see on the website, and our wonderful secretary is going to send them back to Teresa and I, and we will make sure to answer to your questions or feedbacks. Now, do please stay tuned, as in less than an hour, we are going to go back live with our second session of today, which is a talk that Teresa and I had last week with Dr. Amel Hamza, the principal manager for the gender division of the African Development Bank. And we are going to get back again on this issue of gender and water, connecting and bridging what our research was with the vision and the work the African Development Bank does in the field. So please do stay tuned. It is a very interesting interview, even if I did it. So thank you very much for listening and for sharing this video. Now in Italian, vi ringrazio per la vostra per il vostro tempo che avete passato a guardare, a sentire la nostra presentazione. Abbiamo visto che non ci sono commenti, cosa anche giustificabile a quest'ora del mattino. Tuttavia, se qualcuno di voi avesse qualche commento o qualche feedback, non esitate a contattare la segreteria del centro studi, la mail la potete trovare sul sito, e la nostra segretaria molto gentilmente, come sempre, ci farà avere le vostre domande, i vostri feedback, e noi potremo rispondervi. Nel caso vi foste persi qualche parte di questa prima diretta, la potrete ritrovare su YouTube, e quindi anche lì, nel caso abbiate poi dei commenti postumi o secondari, contattateci, Terese ed io saremo più che contenti di rispondervi. Adesso ci sarà una piccola breve interruzione, scusatemi, e poi riprenderemo la live con la seconda sessione, che verterà sempre su il tema del link tra il gender e l'acqua nella zona del lago Chad, e sarà presa da una prospettiva un po' diversa, che cerca di unire la ricerca che Teresa ed io abbiamo fatto con la visione e il lavoro che la African Development Bank fa nella zona intorno al lago Chad. Quindi stay tuned, ci vediamo fra meno di un'ora. Grazie mille a tutti.